Normally, I wouldn't be making a video like this, but given the recent news, I have to. It's been gnawing at me for some time, but I feel that this is necessary. I am Mega Man NG and welcome to my special video, the first of many to be exact. My problem with Dragon Quest in the West. Surprised? Let me say that it's more than just one issue. It's been a recurring problem. Wanna know? Let's get down to business. I'm sure you have heard of the news, but in case you haven't, let me post this photo here. Yup, it turns out that Dragon Quest Tact, a mobile game, is ending service on Global on, of all days, February 29th, 2024, leap year. Now, I gotta check out when it came out for Global, and it was on January 28th, 2021. About 3 years. I don't play this game, but I've heard that many people on Twitter are not happy with this. In fact, this is basically the straw that broke the camel's back for them. Many are saying that they are swearing off playing mobile games made by Square Enix. I stopped when they killed off Final Fantasy Record Keeper, and yes, I'm still angry over that. But that's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to talk about why this right here is part of a much bigger issue. I'm surprised not many people seem to know this, but this right here, along with a few others, is a part of something much bigger going on. What do I mean? I'll tell you. For as long as I can remember, or rather for as long as anyone can remember, Dragon Quest has not been as successful in the West compared to Japan. This goes way back to the late 1980s, when Dragon Quest came over as Dragon Warrior. Nintendo localized the game, by the way, but unfortunately the game did not sell well. It was passed over by players who prefer fast-paced action titles like Super Mario, Mega Man, Castlevania. Made worse was that Nintendo ordered 1 million copies for it, and because it was not the hit they expected, they had to give them away with every Nintendo Power subscription. You can obviously tell where this is going. Nintendo basically gave Enix the cold shoulder. Enix lost the support of Nintendo of America, and they were basically on their own. So, they took it upon themselves to release the other 3 entries. Sadly, though, that would be the impetus for the franchise's inevitable withdrawal for a couple of years. Not helped by the fact that Enix shut down their US branch in 1995, and Dragon Quest would be in hiatus for several years. It would come back in 2001 with Dragon Warrior 7. Before that, though, Enix would give us remakes of the first 3 games, and spin-offs such as Dragon Quest Monsters. Sadly, Dragon Quest VII, or rather Dragon Warrior 7, didn't do so hot. And this review, though, pretty much encapsulates it. My god, it frustrates me. Absolutely frustrates me. I'll link to the review in the description because if I were to talk about this, let's just say that I would be very, very upset. Sheesh. Back on topic. After Square Enix merged to form Square Enix, we would get Dragon Quest VIII. Yes, it was very well received, and won numerous awards, but as the years went by, we would be getting less and less stuff relating to Dragon Quest.
Pose.
Yeah, it turns out someone on Twitter was nice enough to tell me that it seems that Europe had gotten the shaft when it came to Dragon Quest. I kid you not, when Dragon Quest VIII was released on PS2, Europe wouldn't get it until April 13th, 2006. One day after Australia got it. From then on, Europe would get new entries, sometimes earlier and sometimes later. If anything, Europe deserves to enjoy a franchise like Dragon Quest, just like the rest of the world. If only Square Enix could even bother to give a damn. Oh wait, they flat out don't.
Restart.
Sure, we would get remakes of Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6 on Nintendo DS. We got a new mainline entry in the form of Dragon Quest 9. We would also get some spin-off games such as Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, but as the years went by, we would be getting less and less. I kid you not. Do you remember Dragon Quest 7 and 8 for the Nintendo 3DS? Well, in Japan, Dragon Quest 7 came out in 2013. Dragon Quest 8 came out in 2015. Want to know when they came out overseas? I'll tell you. DQ7 on 3DS came out in September of 2016, while Dragon Quest 8 came out 4 months later. I know this because I bought both copies when they came out respectively. Players basically had to beg Square Enix to bring the games overseas. Remember, it was during a time when the company was having problems of its own, made no better by the fact that it was their dork age, and basically they felt that it wasn't worth bringing the games over if the games were not going to sell well. They did eventually, but it really sucked that a company like them would do this. Let's not forget that in 2019, they would bring Dragon Quest 1 to 3 on Nintendo Switch, but they were basically the mobile versions that were ported over. In terms of spin-offs, we had plenty. Some came over, others didn't. We haven't gotten anything else until 2022 with the release of Dragon Quest Treasures. Then a year later, we got 2 more, Infinity Strash and Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. But on mobile, we did get some, such as Dragon Quest of the Stars and Dragon Quest Tact. Sadly though, Dragon Quest Stars has since shut down in 2021, and with the recent announcement of Dragon Quest Tact shutting down, it's pretty clear that Dragon Quest isn't having much of a foothold here. But, I hate to admit this, but these 2 mobile games shutting down is much more of a
Pose.
Hello, this is Mega Man NG from the future, and it turns out that another Dragon Quest mobile game also bit the dust. The Adventure of Dai, A Hero's Bonds. It was released on September 28th, 2021, and ended on April 26th of last year. That's almost a year and a half. Seriously, Dragon Quest really can't catch a break with this. My God.
Restart.
I mentioned this before, and I will say this again. The inevitable closure of Dragon Quest Tact paints a larger problem that is going on with the franchise and their foothold in the West. I already explained about this, and it's pretty clear that Square Enix is intentionally sabotaging Dragon Quest in the West. Why? Think about it. Final Fantasy did have a rough start or two, but when Final Fantasy VII came, the franchise went all mainstream. To this day, people treat Final Fantasy with very high regard, for better or for worse. But when it comes to Dragon Quest, it's usually below that, even though Dragon Quest is the reason Final Fantasy exists. Square Enix treats Final Fantasy like their golden goose, their golden egg, their savior, whereas Dragon Quest is treated like some spoiled middle child and its fans end up getting scraps. This is all my opinion, but I personally feel that Square Enix has a hatred for Dragon Quest fans, especially in the West. Don't take my word for it. Do you remember that live stream they did in regards to Dragon Quest X getting a new expansion, version 6? Well, the people behind it said that this game will not be getting a Western release. I'm still pissed off over that. Sure, I can import the game, but it really sucks that they would have the audacity to say that to a group of fans who are trying to keep hope alive. I don't know what 2024 is going to bring for this franchise. We know we're getting an HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest III. We're also getting a new mainline entry in the series, Dragon Quest XII. Those are games I'm very excited for, but I feel that Square Enix could do so much more. They could do a lot more. And I wish to list 3 things that they could do to build up a bigger audience for Dragon Quest in the West. The first is to port the later entries to modern consoles. The Switch has the first 3 Dragon Quest games, as well as Dragon Quest XI S, and not much else. Imagine if they had the other entries. It could make the Switch the go-to console for role-playing games, not just with Final Fantasy, but with Dragon Quest and so many others. Not only that, but by bringing the previous entries onto the PlayStation and maybe PC, it could even bring more people in. More people getting to play these games means that the franchise can grow and build and make their mark overseas. What more do you need, honestly? The second, and this is very important, do more advertising for all Dragon Quest related content. This also includes video games too, because as I said, this is part of a bigger problem. You know that Square Enix would advertise Final Fantasy games for the most part. If it's something people are hyped for, they would advertise it to no end. But what about for games like Dragon Quest? Very little. Sometimes not at all, and it's not just Dragon Quest. Other franchises don't get much in advertising, and if you saw from last year, Square Enix released so many games that they couldn't even advertise any of them. Yes, to anyone who are fans of Neo The World Ends With You, you have my serious condolences. That game deserved better. But anyway, Square Enix does the bare minimum. Sometimes not at all. But When Nintendo does better at promoting Dragon Quest games, and forgive my language, but somebody fucked up. Seriously. It surprises me that Nintendo, of all companies, do more for Dragon Quest than the company that owns the franchise. It makes me shudder. I only want Square Enix to do more, especially given, and I said this already, but Dragon Quest is the main one of the main reasons why Final Fantasy exists. I swear it. The third and final one, yeah, I'm gonna bloody say it, give Dragon Quest X a needed localization. This game is still going since 2012. It has been more than a decade, and yet for whatever reason, Square Enix has not bothered to give this game a needed localization. It still baffles me. And I mean, seriously, I want to ask, why hasn't this game gotten a localization yet? What's stopping them? Is it because of Final Fantasy XIV? Is it because they don't see it as a high priority? Is it because Dragon Quest isn't as popular as Final Fantasy? Despite the fact that, yes, I'm just going to keep saying it, Square Enix is intentionally sabotaging it in the West? I would like to know. We would like to know. All this does is irritate me, and I simply want answers. We want answers. We want to know what is stopping Square Enix from actually doing something right. I mean, it's not like Square Enix lost nearly $2 billion in value last year alone. Or that they released flop after flop after flop over the past few years. Sorry guys, I just had to do it. Or they decided to shut down unprofitable mobile games after like a year or so. Possibly less. I would show like an example of a mobile game, but that stuff disappeared just like Square Enix's mobile department. Or maybe they had to shut down an entire studio they had, all because one game they made flopped. Or maybe the money they got from selling off all their Western studios to Embracer Group wasn't enough. I could go on and on and on and on. But would it kill them to do something so simple as to bring one game over? I don't know. I truthfully don't have an answer.
Pose.
Must I hate doing this? Yes, this is Mega Man NG from the future yet again. It turns out Square Enix just dropped another L, and I cannot stress this enough. Turns out their new president, Takashi Kiryu, wants Square Enix to be aggressive in applying AI in its development and publishing efforts. Has this company not learned anything? I mean, they wanted to get into NFTs, cryptos, blockchains, and let's just say that they did try with AI with the Portopia serial murder case game. It failed badly. Christ. Does this company want to fail? Because judging by all of their recent decisions, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Oh, wait a second. Wait, let me add something in there. Turns out it's much worse since these guys decided to use AI-generated art for their game Foam Stars. What the actual hell? And yet you guys accuse us of being a Splatoon ripoff? When in truth, you guys chase trends that would only end in disaster for you. Because after all, Square Enix,
You done fucked up now!
I only hope I don't get copyright claimed for that.
Restart.
But as I said, what's happening with Dragon Quest Tact is part of a bigger problem. One that I feel may not end unless Square Enix does so. I apologize if I went off topic, but personally, this disdain towards Western Dragon Quest fans needs to stop. It has to stop, because Final Fantasy as a whole is not going to keep Square Enix afloat forever. They need more than that. They need other franchises like Dragon Quest. I said this once, and I will continue to say it again. Without Dragon Quest, Hironobu Sakaguchi would not have the motivation to make Final Fantasy. And without this franchise, Square as a company would have been bankrupt, and Sakaguchi would just be another person forgotten over time. And without Square, the merger wouldn't happen with Enix. Enix would have gone bankrupt in 2001 or maybe later. So for as much as the two companies need each other, Square Enix needs to stop treating Dragon Quest in the West like expendable garbage. This is my opinion, and you are free to disagree with this. But still, all this just frustrates me. So I'm going to end it with this. What do you think about all this? Do you feel that Square Enix could do more with Dragon Quest? And if you think so, how? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'm done ranting about it, and besides, all it does is build me a lot of negativity. Not that it matters because I'm already filled with it as it is. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. It truly means a lot to me. This is my first time doing something like this, and I hope that it will not be the last. If you want to see more stuff like this, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click that bell. Make sure you set notifications to all so that way you know what I'll upload next. It helps me very much. And if you want to support the channel, there are many ways. You can either be a channel member on that join button down below. You can support me via my Ko-fi. I would include Patreon, but these guys are scumbags, so yeah. Or you can donate to my PayPal. You'll get a shout out if you do, and all donos will go towards content I can produce, or rather, content I hope to produce from for the channel. All of this is not mandatory, or rather, all of this is not mandatory, but it is very appreciative if you can. I only wish Square Enix can take some advice from people that do care about their products. But with the way things are, I truthfully don't know. This is Mega Man NG signing off. Peace out. Do better, Square Enix, for all our sakes.